Today's episode is brought to you by me. Still mostly just brought to you by me. However, my friends over at DefiantBean.com are trying to help out too, but they can't do it alone. Defiant Bean Roasters take responsibly sourced quality coffee beans, lovingly and caringly roast them, sometimes while listening to the Enormocast apparently. Then they put them in a bag, still warm, in a box, and send them to you. So fresh, the beans think they're on a little vacation, right up until they hear the grinder fire up. But anyway, DefiantBean.com is offering Enormocast listeners a deal. 10% off any order, and we, the royal we over here at the Enormocast, get 10% as well. That's DefiantBean.com. Enter Enormo in the coupon code at checkout and get 10% off great coffee. Or head over to enormocast.com, click on the Defiant Bean banner for details. Be defiant, demand fresh roasted coffee. All right, on to the show.
We gotta get
Listen, where are you playing in town? You playing here?
We're doing the Normo Dome, whatever it is. It's terrific.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
a
big
house. We
place
sold it
outside
out.
of town. That's a
Very
big
nice.
place. You sold it out.
20,000 seats.
You really should.
Look, you better get up there before you panic. Those pens are loose. You're very good. I have really enjoyed playing with you. We'll make it. I don't think so. But we shall continue with style. Good weather, bad weather. Now or later, anytime is good for climbing.
Hello and welcome to the Enormocast. This is your host, Chris Kalous. It is July 16th. Yeah, don't give me a hard time about that. Just got back from Lander, got in super late. Didn't have time to get this thing done today. Just leave me alone. On today's show, I connect with the youth. I actually have two conversations on today's show. One is with Steve Denny, a 23-year-old road warrior from Rhode Island, and the other is with Henry Nadell, a 15-year-old future shredder. But before we get to that, the only piece of business I have today is that the stickers have arrived, and they are totally awesome. And I need to get them out there. I need to spread them across the nation like some sort of viral infection. Or like a mild cold, you know, the kind that puts you under a little bit and gives you a ready excuse to stay home and play Xbox instead of going climbing. So next time you send me an email, which you can send at chris@enormocast.com, or if you send me a donation, which you can also find at enormocast.com, please attach your address and I will send some stickers. That's all I have right now, besides the podcast, is stickers. So I'll send you a sticker. No problem. And don't worry, I'm working on other merch, as they say in the business, some t-shirts and some hats and, I don't know, the normal swag. All right, that's it. I think let's just get to the show today. Episode 15, Those Meddling Kids. I'm just making it up as I go.
Yeah,
so.
it's the way to go. You don't need a system.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'd like to welcome Steve Denny to the Rocky Mountain Bunker out here. What do you think of the place?
It's one of the coolest places that you could live.
Yeah, it's right underneath Mount Sopris. We're actually sitting out front, so you'll hear the birds chirping and the river gurgling.
Yeah.
But, I'm actually getting kicked out of the bunker.
It's a bummer.
I know. I got to move into town, but unless you guys can... Unless Normocast listeners between now and September can come up with, like, I don't know, this place looks like it costs probably like $4 million.
Yeah.
So, $4 million, that's our goal, people.
Yeah.
$4 million.
Start the phone calls. We were waiting.
So anyway, I invited Steve to be on the show. He's been interested in the podcast for a little while, and he's a local guy that lives here in town, sort of. Tell us about yourself there, Steve.
Well,
what kind of climber are you?
I'm just a climber. I like to do it all.
You're from Rhode Island, I just found out.
Yep, I grew up in Rhode Island.
So how did you end up coming out of Rhode Island as a rock climber?
I wasn't. I came out here to ski to the Colorado Mountain College here in the valley.
Uh-huh.
And found rock climbing. The first summer I was here, working at a gear shop, and everyone went out after work and cranked at the Pukes. So that was where my career began when I was 18.
Really?
Yeah. Roadside Attraction was like the first thing I ever climbed.
Which one is that?
The one like right when you walk up, you're like, oh, this polished, awesome
Oh,
thing.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, just right
there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Like 4 or 5 bolts?
Yep.
When was that?
This was 2007.
Huh.
Yeah. I'm 23.
You're only 23?
Mm-hmm. Rock and roll. In my prime.
All right, that's cool because later in the show, I've got an interview with a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
So we're going to just kind of go up the generations here. So maybe next show I'll
I
have
know
a
you're way
30-something.
into generations.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting thing for me because having lived through several, you know,
Yeah.
it's and watching changes and you kind of frame them in terms of that.
Totally.
There's definitely ways to kind of look at it chronologically.
Yeah,
So.
for sure.
No, I have listeners telling me to stop talking about how old I am, but
Yeah.
too bad. I'm old.
No, whatever.
But I'm still in the mix.
Oh,
Still
hell yeah.
climbing hard.
No doubt.
Yeah, trying anyway. So you learned to climb here. That's funny because I mean I probably walked by you and just like gave you a dirty
like going
look.
left. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, there's gummies. I'm out. Going to Craig.
Exactly.
And we were like, ooh, look at those guys. They're going left. Cool.
Yeah, if you take a left at where the trail hits the cliff, you're going up to the harder climbing.
But
Those guys are going left.
so you grew up in Rhode Island and you split to here.
Yeah, never go back.
No.
Sorry to all my friends in Rhodey, but
Yeah.
place is not as cool as Colorado.
I mean, you'll go back to visit.
Rarely.
Right.
Yeah, I haven't seen my parents in a long time.
Really?
I don't go back. They don't come out, so we talk a lot, but
There's not some sort of like story there where you stormed out.
Oh no,
with you guys.
I mean,
I don't know.
there's some stories there, but my parents are awesome.
Yeah,
like that.
you guys are
That's
still
all
tight.
good. Yeah, totally.
You have brothers and sisters?
I have many. They're all like half siblings, first marriages. I have adopted younger brother.
So Steve is actually like has sort of struck me as like the quintessential road dog right now. Although you're sort of
Yeah.
based here in the valley,
I do love it here.
and you are in and out of your van.
I'm in and out of the van.
You were in Yosemite earlier this year.
I was. It was my first time there, so that was like kind of I had put it on a pedestal for a long time. So.
Right. What was your impression?
It's a really strange place to go rock climbing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the overall scene there between the rangers and the employees, we were in employee housing, and it was very wild place. And then throw in all these amazing climbs and history, and it was borderline overwhelming.
Right.
Definitely had to slow it down and think about how you're going to spend your time.
Right.
Because there's a lot of options.
Right.
But it's great fun. I mean, it's an awesome place.
I mean, I just, I had a show a couple shows ago with Cedar. We talked a lot about Yosemite and kind of the history there. And, I didn't get into it too much, but it's kind of a stressful place to be, especially, I'm this Indian Creek climber, which is sort of the last great free open
and that's
area.
how you're out in Yosemite thinking about the creek, like, man, this is a lot different than that. 'Cause I spent a lot of time there as well, more than anywhere else probably, and the freedom.
Yeah, and it's like there's just all these stresses there. There's the rangers,
it's constant.
There's waiting in line if you are going to be legit.
Yeah.
You got to wait in line at Camp 4. The bears. I mean, and the bears are way worse than when I was wall climbing there. Like there were no bear boxes in the meadow. And now I when we did the Freerider in 2008, we blasted off to catch up with our gear that we'd put up there on the free blast, and we were like 4 pitches up as kind of the rest of the people were sort of gathering around at the base of the wall, and I watched a bear coming down from up by Lurking Fear and yelled down to these guys, like I yelled down, hey, there's a bear like 60 yards up the hill coming towards you right now. And he's like, what? And I said, there is a bear coming towards you right now. And it was probably like 8 a.m. And this bear apparently had been sort of up there because he'd been finding stashed haul bags.
Sure. Yeah.
So, and that never used to happen, but I mean, everybody's out of control. And so it's like, I just know what you're talking about. It's like when you sit back and you're like looking around, you're like, this is the greatest climbing area in the world. And then all of a sudden that thought is interrupted by like, oh, I better get out of here because I'm not supposed to be bivvied here.
Yeah.
Or, I got to go move my car.
Yeah.
Or I don't have a permit to be in that lot. Or, I got to get that candy bar off my dashboard before a bear rips the door off my car.
For real.
It's a strange place. And then you contrast it with that with the creek, and basically it's like...
And it really, being in the creek, it frees the mind to go and rock climb. Like, worrying about all that other stuff is very taxing.
Yeah, it's weird. It's too bad. It makes up for it when you do lose those thoughts while you're climbing there. But I want to go back. I did so little free climbing there when I was back there in the day, and there's so much stuff to do. But it's just so hard to like go into that mix for me. When
it is
not just Indian Creek, but there's just so many places where the camping and all that stuff are enhance the experience.
Yeah.
In that place, it totally detracts.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah. So you were out there, and I understand you ran into Mr. Honnold. I wanted Steve to tell this story.
I met my hero there on the Captain. We had just sat for most of the day behind a very, very slow party, as often happens on the nose, and had changed our game plan to, instead of 2 nights, do 3 nights. So we're on Dolt Tower, chilling, enjoying being on a ledge. And
at least there's no bears.
Yeah, happy there's no bears. And and the haul to that ledge is absolutely horrible. So I just hauled a really nasty bag, and up cruises Mr. Honnold, middle of the night. It's probably 10:30 at night, and he's, of course, soloing. He's got maybe 9 cams and a 6mm friggin' rope on his back for the king swing, and all cool, mellow. Honnold, what time is it, you guys? You guys know what time it is? And we're like, yeah, 10:30-ish. He's like, cool, started an hour ago. Nice, dude. Way to go. I'd expect nothing less.
The fact that he stopped even to talk to you guys.
For real. He definitely seemed like he needed a breather at that point. And I didn't know at the time what was going on, but, just that Honnold was soloing the Captain in the middle of the night, which seemed a little strange.
I don't even remember his first name anymore.
Yeah.
He's just like Madonna.
It was actually very interesting. I introduced myself as a proper gentleman should do, and he said, oh, yeah, I'm Alex. And my buddy that was with me was very put off by that, but I thought it was kind of funny because, everybody know, my parents know who Honnold is. It's very,
right.
He's probably the most famous rock climber at the moment. And, he's a good guy. So,
but you saved his life.
And then he's on to business. He's like, you guys, you got any chalk? And of course, we've got some chalk. You don't go rock climbing for days at a time without some chalk. We did only have 1 bag, but yeah, we got some chalk for you. Here you go. You need it? All right, take it away. And kind of hand it over, oh, cool. And yeah,
but it wasn't just chalk. Nobody took your old chalk bag.
Yeah, he took the whole chalk bag.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. He's got no bag. So the issue is that he's forgot his chalk bag in haste.
You're not just he's not just filling his bag up.
Yeah, no. I'm handing him a full bag that I, brought up there to use. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, yeah, I'll tie it to the bolt, whatever. I was like, no, dude, you need this. Tie it to the tree.
Yeah, put it
on
top.
All the way, man.
Right.
This is...
Take my bag.
Take it away. And he's like, all right, cool. He dips his hands and he's like, it's even full. Oh, man, sweet. I'm like, yeah, I don't mess around.
Right.
We're prepared for this. And so basically what ended up happening is we saved the triple. And he had done Watkins that morning or that afternoon and was doing the Captain through the night and then went on to Half Dome in the morning. And 2 days later or whatever, 3 days later when we finally topped out, there was my chalk bag tied to the tree.
Nice.
And I kind of did all right, cool, way to go, Honnold. And still had no idea at this point what he had done at that moment, but yeah. So
if you've been living in a cave or something, you don't know what Steve's talking about. Honnold climbed Alex Honnold. I was just like calling him
Alex.
Honnold.
Yeah,
or Alex?
Honnold rolls. It's a good name.
I know. I prefer that.
He needs like a jersey with his name on it.
But he, if you haven't been paying attention to media, he did soloed Watkins, El Cap, and Half Dome in I don't know how many hours was it?
18 hours and 50 minutes.
Yeah,
I call it 19.
He got rid of the Tommy Caldwell bag.
Yeah,
and shaved a couple hours off.
It was unbelievable. The kid.
He's like, dude, just sit this one out. You kind of slow me down. But Steve here saved the show because
I did, and we got written up in the articles as some aid climbers that saved the show. Which I guess we were doing some aid climbing, so we are aid.
I'm
climbers.
sure he would have slipped and fallen to his death.
I'm positive of it actually, and if you're out there, Alex, like I would love that 12-pack that I heard you were trying to give me.
Yeah,
or some North Face gear.
That's an awesome story to go to your at the Valley for the first time and.
It was cool. I mean, we had it was like Superstar Day. We had Hans running sickle laps while we were down there because he was getting ready for the speed record. And then,
so Hans, what did you say? He's running laps on the sickle?
Yeah, he's running sickle laps. I guess that was like part of his block, and that's kind of those first 4 pitches are pretty tough. I get whatever. So
see, that's kind of cool to find that out too, because you have sort of this impression that they just kind of like. I'm just going to try to climb this thing faster, but it's a lot more methodical than that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Hans is like, he's got like his schedule all the time, I feel like. So, yeah, that was probably all written into the plan.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's got to be.
Yeah.
It's got to be meticulous.
I mean, those guys, to break the record as hard as they did was expected.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like Hans and Honnold. Like, who else is going to do that?
It seems like there's got to be some sort of physical limit to that in the end.
We'll see. I'm going to be
there
alive
is like just the
sure.
issue of the time-space continuum that eventually some
with
sort
like
of time
the 30-second record breakers,
you're
like, oh yeah, we're getting there, and then these guys are like 10 minutes off or whatever. Crazy.
But do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, there's no way. I mean, I think that they said average like 4 minutes a pitch.
Right.
How what? Like what?
Not even Kirk was doing that in Star Trek 4.
Yeah.
You're too young to know what the hell I'm talking
not
about.
A Star Trek fan. Star Wars, yeah.
In the opening segment, the infamous opening segment of Star Trek 4, the one with the whales. No. Kirk's free soloing the nose.
Oh, yeah. Captain Kirk is climbing a mountain. Yeah. I've seen the parodies.
Yeah, no, he's free soloing the nose.
Yeah.
It's very specific. He's actually climbing the boot flake.
Dang.
Yeah.
Good
and then
on
he
him.
pitches.
Oh.
Yeah, and Spock saves him.
Whoa.
You've never seen this?
No, I've never seen this.
You gotta YouTube it. I'm sure it's out there.
I'm sure it's out there.
He's got jet boots.
Oh, yeah. See, that's how they're going to break the next record.
And he talks to him, and he distracts him, and he pitches, and then Spock saves him.
Dang.
Yeah.
I'll have to look that up.
Supposedly Shatner, at least for a brief moment before he got a little bit round, was a rock climber, for real. And that's why he put that in there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
Tidbits on the Enormocast.
Well, there's some guy, and I can't remember his name at this moment, took that whipper. He took, because when they show him falling, it's real.
Oh, yeah.
And he had all these like hydraulic cables and stuff instead of using dynamic ropes, because when they do that sort of stuff, it's like, they got to go way beyond what we would use. But he takes like 100-footer. Yeah, so it was like this one of those big filming things in the valley. I don't even know if they can do that stuff anymore in national parks, but
it's a big money permit.
Anyway, if I can find it, I'll post a link to it.
Yeah.
If it's out there, I'll post a link to it on
put it on the website.
On the website,
which I finally visited and liked the Facebook, which everyone should do.
Yeah, go ahead and like the Facebook. Yeah. I understand people not visiting the page because I don't go to the pages of the podcasts I listen to.
Yeah,
it's not an important part, but there's stuff going on over there.
Totally.
I try to post a funny picture with each post.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
All right, so you're back in the valley. What's going on now, dude?
I mean,
some rumblings about South America, I heard.
I don't know where I'm going. I really have not made a plan.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, my life is a roller coaster. It's pretty funny. I never know where I'm going to go next.
That's perfect, man.
It is.
It's like, that's why I had you on the shows, because I'm jealous.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Those days are gone for me, for whatever reason. I don't even know why they are.
Because you just said that. That's why.
I know. But, responsibilities.
Yeah, right.
I got to start saving for retirement. The Enormocast is my retirement plan.
Yeah,
if this doesn't,
I think it'll be fine.
If this doesn't go off, I'm going to be like destitute in some sort of state old folks home. Either that or working at 7-Eleven till I'm like 89.
Yeah, it's probably. They're always hiring.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I can stay up all night. I'm cool.
Yeah, ain't no thing.
Besides, that'd be actually a good. I think a podcast that was recorded at like 4 in the morning at Sevi with whoever comes in would actually be a pretty tight show.
It might launch. I'd
listen. Into that.
I'd tune in, yeah.
Especially if it was like in Vegas or something.
Oh, yeah.
You'd have to be somewhere like Vegas. Yeah.
For sure.
And you just like get like 5-minute interviews with the people who are coming in at like 3 in the morning.
Like, what's up, man?
Dude, that's a killer idea. I'm branching out.
Yeah, you should be careful broadcasting that.
I know. Someone's going to steal that one for sure. So
it's always the scare. Someone will steal it.
All right, cool. Well, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to seg over into my interview with Henry. You've met this kid, right?
I have. Henry, he's a little shredder. I mean, I just see him all around town. He hangs out at the shop I work at a lot, and he's got his little bros, so...
Yeah, and it's a bike shop, right?
Well, yeah, it's a consignment gear shop.
Consignment shop.
Yeah, we do some bikes, we do some everything, and those kids come in and spend their parents' money. It's funny.
Yeah, totally. No, I've got an interview coming up with a now 15-year-old. He just turned 15 today, actually. I recorded it yesterday. But,
nice.
With Henry Nadell. I like to say it with a little bit of a flair. Nadell. But he's a young climber in town, and I decided to sit down with him and find out what his motivation was because, I have this theory, and I'm going to spin it by you here, and I'm working on it. I don't know exactly how it fits, but
sure.
There's this sort of prevailing knowledge out there that there's all these, like, we always joke that there's some, like, 12-year-old kid that can fire your project.
Yeah.
They're just, like, climbing super hard, and all these sort of young kids are coming up through the gyms that are just cranking, right? But then I started to look around, and I'm like, you know what, though? It's not really translating into more sort of competition or superstars at the high end of the game. In other words, like, it's always been that every generation of climbing, back to this generation idea, sort of puts up their 2 or 3 great climbers that push either the difficulty or what's being done in the mountains or whatever else, and you think that if we've got this like huge groundswell of these shredders, of these killer, just super strong kids, shouldn't we have, instead of 1 or 2, shouldn't we have 10 Sharmas in the mix right now?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Or it seems as though we just replace. It's always a couple. You've got a generation where like Chris Sharma and David Graham and those, at least in America.
Yeah, America.
Those guys were sort of top of their game, and now there's a couple behind them. This girl Sasha and like Jonathan Segrist and stuff. But you'd think there'd be this whole like, 10, 15, 20 kids duking it out in the 515 level, but it's not.
No.
And my theory is, and this is, if you guys want to write in and argue with me, that'd be great, because I haven't really worked it out. But, I saw the boulder climbing team in Rifle. They come out, and they've got their coaches, and they come out from Boulder from the Rock Club or Movement. I don't know where they're coming from. Yeah. But it's like a typical, like, kind of teenager, setup where the coaches come and get climbs and get them all sorted out, and you go to if you go to the cliff where they're at, they're just like climbing all over the place. But what I realized is that just like all sports in high school or middle school or whatever, it's the motivation is still the adult. It's the adult that gathered them together. It's the adult that's telling them which climbs to do, and you can listen to them ask the coaches, like, what should I do now? What should I do now? And I think that just like all those sports in high school, there's a point at which when you take that external motivation away, a lot of those kids drop out of it.
Yeah.
Or they stop doing it. They go to college and they start drinking and chasing chicks or chasing dudes or whatever. You have to make this leap after that, not only to your own self-motivation, but you have to make a leap to intellectualizing climbing, because it's no longer just a physical thing. when you get out and you get onto real rock. Even if you're just sport climbing, there's an intellectual element to it. And because, it's like, I'm going to go to maple, and that's different than rifle, and that's different than jailhouse, and that's different. And so I have to, it's not just these holds that I'm used to, these plastic holds.
Right.
And if you can't, and plus you have to sort of embrace this lifestyle thing, which
that's
I think
a big part of it,
right,
for sure.
drops a lot of people out of it.
Yeah. I mean, you got to be out of the house to go embrace the lifestyle.
and even if you just stay a sport climber and you never get into big roots and tri climbing, which is a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
And that really is an intellectual part of the sport. It still is like you have to kind of decide that this is going to be my life, and here are the sacrifices I'm going to make to do it. Even someone who's well-funded and whatever else. So anyway, so back to my interview with Henry, is I see Henry as this kid who's like, he's coming up through it in kind of this old school way right now, where he's definitely climbs in the gym because it's an opportunity to climb, especially here in Carbondale. But he's very much more interested in becoming this outdoor climber and becoming this kid or this guy who's going to go out and do the big routes and attack it that way. And actually, interestingly, in the interview, he even calls it a religion.
Whoa.
He says it's more like a religion.
Yeah.
It's more like this thing that gets inside of you and that you dedicate like so much of your life to. So it's kind of interesting, and that's why I ended up wanting to interview the kid. So
we'll see how that goes. Rad.
Yeah,
for sure.
He's getting after it.
Yeah,
I promise to take him down to the black. So
that would be good times. That opens his eyes for sure. Good. I mean, good for him for sure.
Yeah. All right, Steve, thanks for coming over. And,
dude.
Hopefully when you're in town and you're not out doing your thing in your GMC Safari.
That now runs perfectly.
Right on. The Enormocast took you up.
Enormocast fixed my van.
But when you're in town, I'd love to have you back on the show.
Yeah, sure.
You'll be Steve Denny, Everyman climber.
Right.
We'll get
Round
the perspective from the guy in the trenches.
Yeah, I'm into it. I love it. It's good times.
All right, appreciate you coming out.
For sure. Thanks.
All right, I'm sitting here with Henry Nadell. Is that close enough? That was a little French turn on it.
Fine. All good.
And his father, Frank. Thanks for letting me into your house, you guys. I know this is kind of strange. And I asked these guys to sit down with me because Henry has become something of a legend in the town as sort of a young climber who's coming up and is really stoked on it and has a really good relationship with a bunch of different climbers in the valley. So I wanted to talk to him and his dad, Frank, about what his motivations are as a young climber who is getting after it and trying to become better and trying to learn how to be a climber of note, if you will. So, Henry.
Yeah.
How'd you learn how to climb?
Well, in 5th or 4th grade, my teacher was a climber, Miss Wendy Williams, and we had a little bouldering wall in our classroom. So during recess, me and my buddies would just spend all recess on the bouldering wall. And then it evolved from that to the gym. And then from that, I joined the climbing team with Tracy and BJ. The Pebble Wrestlers. And then I got some rope and some gear and went out to Glenwood Canyon and loved it ever since.
You went to the Montessori school with Wendy as your teacher. And now where are you in school?
I'm going to CRMS.
So you're on the climbing team over there?
Yep.
Yeah, the reason I wanted to talk to you is because you have this trajectory that's a little bit, I think, different than a lot of kids are getting into climbing right now. And it kind of feels a little bit old school in that when I was a kid, I didn't know anything about climbing. I grew up in the Midwest, but I also feel like once I did get into it, when I moved out to Colorado, it was a very adult sport. There weren't a lot of younger guys doing it, younger people. And I know I'm going to keep calling you a kid. I know you're almost 15.
It's okay.
So, but you're going to be a kid to me forever. So, and probably to your dad as well. So I wouldn't worry about it. But yeah, so you're on this trajectory you're already buying gear, you're already placing gear, you're already getting into a little bit of trad climbing, a little bit of crack climbing. And that's kind of why I wanted to sit down with you because I see a lot of kids that are coming up through the gyms, kind of bigger cities where there's more of a gym culture, and that's really their main focus. And I also see a lot of those guys get up through high school and kind of fall away from the sport. And I have this sort of theory that it's because they don't necessarily have an intellectual or a real emotional connection to it. It's more of a true sporting event to them. And like a lot of sports that people do in high school, you know, they dedicate their time and existence and everything to it for, you know, let's say in high school for 4 years, like if you were a wrestler, and then you graduate and you never ever wrestle again. I mean, adults don't go to wrestling clubs and wrestle each other, or I mean, but it's the same for basketball, the same for volleyball, all these sports that you're so into as a teenager, and then they're just gone as you graduate. And I've always found that to be kind of strange. Now with climbing, I think there's something that you can't pursue as an adult. And so I just wanted to kind of talk to you about that, whether your connection, you see that growing and going on beyond these sort of years that you are doing it as a teenager.
Yeah, well, definitely I'm, like, connected because, like, there's so many different things you can do with climbing. Like, it doesn't have to just be in the gym. You can go out to Indian Creek. You can go mountaineering, ice climbing, all seasons. And I don't really think of climbing as, like, a sport, but more of, like, a religion, maybe.
Really? Expand on that.
Something like that. Like, when I go out, I don't think I'm of a sport. There's something else too in the mix.
There's something in the mix that's a little bit different about it.
Yeah.
Than shooting hoops or something like that.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty convinced of that as well. I hope so, because I've dedicated the better part of my life to it.
Yeah.
So it would be a bummer if it was just another sport. But let's get back to that. I want to kind of still lay the base of where you came from and bring your dad, Frank, into the conversation. Hey, Frank, how are you? Good. You were just telling me that you weren't really a climber before it was something that Henry found interesting to him. Although you had some experience because you worked for the fire department, so rope rescue and rappelling and things like that. So, you know, when your kid came home and was super stoked on this climbing thing and you kind of ran with it, was it something that you found interesting yourself, or was it something you were just doing for Henry?
I'll just go back to his previous comment, and you know that there's something about climbing that's very different. And I'll just say, as a parent, it's very, very different than being a soccer dad or a hockey dad, where, you know, you go from taking your kid to practice, you know, 2 times a week, and then taking the games on Saturday all over the state and all over so you go and you cheer the team on, and then you come home and that's that. And it's not very participatory.
Right.
Other than
for the
cheering.
adult. Right.
And when he got into climbing, that became something very, very different. You know, I could actually participate in it with him. Mm-hmm. I'm not much of a climber, but I can, you know, he needs a belayer.
Sure.
So belaying is something I had done in rope rescue, so it's like, I already know how to do that. It's easy. You know, he started on the local rec center team, and you know, that was great, and, you know, learned the basic skills and all that. But then once he got outside, then that was that. He was like, the gym was done. He was done with that. And then, you know, then it became to go away to all these faraway places and travel. And, you know, we like to camp, and I like to do amateur astronomy, telescope observing. So getting out to, you know, places away from city lights and that. And so it all just sort of melded together and became a great family thing, you know, to go to these crags here and there around the state and neighboring states and camp and climb, and I can stay up late and stargaze. And,
right on. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like you guys embrace the lifestyle.
Yeah, and then, you know, then it's the people and the places that, you know, people you meet, and, you know, it's like going to Maple Canyon out in Utah and running into the same people we see in Rifle Mountain Park, or there's a community or family of climbers, you know. And then,
so how did you feel about sort of handing him off to some of these folks in town? I mean, there was probably a point at which the knowledge that he needed, particularly like placing gear and leading and all those sorts of things,
went beyond what you knew as a guy who knew how to play and use the ropes and rope rescue and stuff like that. But, it seems like there was probably a point where you kind of had to trust some other people with your kid a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, maybe where we live, I mean, he was taught by Wendy Williams and BJ and Tracy, and Michael Kennedy has taken him out a number of times, where we've run into them, and everyone is so generous. They're, if we just show up at a crag or something like, hey Henry, you want to get on this rope?
Sure.
They're on like some 5'11" D or something, and he's like 12, and I'm like, ugh. But yeah,
it's a trustworthy bunch.
Top rope, the top rope.
Yeah,
what they're climbing, and I trust them explicitly, so I never worried about it.
So Henry, tell me what kind of climber you are. How would you sort of characterize yourself out there?
I'm not really sure, but definitely for the outdoor mostly. But I like the gym in the winter, and like when you can't go out, that's always good. But I like the outdoor mostly. That's the real fun, I think.
Yeah, and do you dabble in trad climbing and sport climbing no matter what?
Well, mostly sport right now, but starting to learn a little bit. I was hoping to get out. I think Michael Kennedy was going to take me out, and we were going to learn some trad skills and stuff. So,
and then what happened?
Well, I haven't done that yet, but...
And why aren't you climbing right now, Henry?
Right now I have a broken wrist.
Right, and how'd you do that?
Biking.
Exactly. Let's stay off the bikes.
Yes.
Stay on the ropes.
For sure.
So, you talked about climbing with Michael Kennedy and BJ and Tracy and Wendy and a bunch of other people in town. So who are, besides those folks, who are your sort of inspirations out there in the climbing world?
Well, definitely like Hayden Kennedy. Well, you, I think.
Right.
You're good inspiration. And I'm not really sure on any others right now. I can't think.
Well, that's cool. I mean, Hayden Kennedy is another local kid who went to Sierra Mess, so you're kind of carrying that torch, I guess, for the next few years that he left behind. Yeah. So he's over in Pakistan right now, hopefully doing really well. So tell me some of the places you guys have been to in terms of climbing.
Maple Canyon, City of Rocks, Indian Creek, Salt Lake. Where else?
Moab.
Moab.
Right.
Shelf Road. 11 Mile Canyon.
Oh, yeah.
So you've been getting around, in other words.
Yeah. And
Thompson Creek.
Rifle.
Yeah, local crags. Totally. So, and how often do you think you get out?
Well, when I'm not broken.
When you're not broken, yeah.
2 or 3 times a week is a good week, yeah.
That's a pretty good week, yeah, totally. All right, cool. Let's go back to this religion thing. So when you're not really, and I don't want to sort of, make it controversial, like, you're some sort of pagan kid worshiping stones, but when you let's see if we can ferret out that idea of what you think there is to it. What is it that sort of grabs you? Do you think you can put that into words? Just like the people and like style, maybe something like that. But everyone's like nice and always like cool and stuff. And I don't know. What about the activity? Like, what is it about the activity that, you could be out, like I said, you could be out hanging out with your bros in the park, or you could be out playing basketball, you could be out doing a number of other things. What do you think it is about this thing that sort of draws your intellect into it? Because it's like always different. I can go on a route 1,000 times and I always do it differently. And then it's just fun that way. Cause you're going to have to fix that habit. Why? Because you're going to have to start learning how to do beta exactly the same way every time you try to do it. Yeah, but it's just like there's something that pulls you towards it. So can you foresee yourself like being a climber for the rest of your life, or at least for the next foreseeable future? I think I could do it for the rest of my life for sure. Right on. Do you like being poor? I don't mind it. So what are some of your goals? To go to Yosemite. To improve at all types of climbing. And to buy a van. To buy a van and become a road bum dirtbag climber. Is that what I'm kind of getting from you?
Possibly.
That's like the dream.
Yeah.
Did you see what you've done? Now I can imagine though you're gonna probably want to eventually make some money too and have like a normal life to a certain extent.
Yeah, maybe.
Right, good, maybe, yeah, maybe that big high dollar sponsorship will come through.
I don't know about that.
So you mentioned something about ice climbing. Do you imagine yourself becoming some sort of mountaineer in the future as well? Now this is going to really. Your mom's not in here, so that's probably good. Are you going to say yes?
I don't know. I don't know, really.
Okay.
I haven't really thought about that much. But
have you ice climbed?
Not really, no.
No? Haven't ice climbed yet?
I've been up to Redstone and watched people, but I'd like to try it. It looks fun.
Yeah, you should just not bother.
It seems sketchy.
It's sketchy and cold and miserable. So I think you should just totally stay away from it. Yeah, and speaking of that, actually, in terms of your assessment of the risk, Frank, is it something that concerns you at all? In terms of, like I said, he could be just hanging out in the park with his bros instead of this. As you look towards, him sort of pursuing climbing, is this something that concerns you in terms of safety?
Not terribly. I do, read the accident reports on Rock and Ice and try to talk to him about what went wrong.
Right.
I try to keep him safe, but I think you only get one accident in climbing.
Yeah, a lot of times it's only the one.
He's on his second broken arm and surgery from biking, and he could probably have 10 more. I don't know how many accidents you can have in climbing. Not many.
Right. Well, yeah,
you can have some close calls, but
yeah, it's kind of an all or nothing thing a lot of times. I mean, that is a big difference. You don't run into guys breaking arms and wrists and things like that like you do in biking, but I think the potential for something catastrophic is obviously a little bit higher in climbing versus...
Yeah. And you think about that and, try to make sure he's using good anchors. And I always tell him to put a safety knot in, and he doesn't like that. But I says, you gotta have a safety knot.
Listen to your father.
Okay. I just forget.
Yeah. And it comes from rescue. I mean, rescue, we like duplication. You don't build a anchor, you build two anchors.
Multiple backups,
and everything is backed up, and... So I try to instill that in him. And it is annoying.
There's a certain level of that in climbing, but we don't ever go as far as you do when you guys are in institutional setups of rescue. Because I've been, when I was in Estes Park, a lot of times we'd get called in by SAR just to be more bodies there. And we were always just kind of like, wow, you guys are really overdoing it as far as we're concerned. But as long as you can instill that idea of having backups and having multiple points, I mean, that's still something that goes through climbing, certainly.
That's one thing that surprised me once we moved from the gym to outdoors is a lot of people are pretty sketchy out there.
Oh, totally.
And that really was very surprising to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's, we have such a large cross-culture in climbing now. Again, 20 years ago, there was kind of this mentoring system where people, I think, didn't bite off so much right away. I always say that it took me 3 or 4 years until I had taken a lead fall. I had been leading for a really long time before I lobbed off of something. And also that I worked up and, climbed 5.7 and I was really solid. And then I climbed 5.8 and I was really solid and I climbed 5.9. And we're in this mode now, I think because of the gym in a lot of ways, that people just come bursting out ready to get on hard things and are a bit naive about the differences. I've watched the same thing kind of grow in the sport. But there's always been wingnut, out there. Are you able, Henry, at this point to make those kind of judgments about whether someone seems to be climbing safely or if someone seems to be kind of a wingnut and not really doing what he's supposed to be doing?
Yeah, partially. I've seen some people like taking their hand off when they're belaying on like ATC even, which is kind of sketchy, I guess. I've seen some things that look pretty sketchy to me.
Well, that's good. I mean, that you're not just wandering around blindly.
Yeah.
And you can make an assessment of those sorts of people and things that maybe you don't want to get involved in terms of climbing.
Yeah.
So where are you with your trad climbing? Are you leading stuff down in the creek?
Not yet. Still top rope because I don't know how to place it quite yet. But I'd like to get to do that because I really like Indian Creek a lot.
Right.
But I've been going down with like Tracy and BJ, and they'll like show me some stuff. But I'd like to get to a point where I could go not depending on someone else for like leading.
I mean, obviously that's the goal, is when you can just saddle up and head down there on your own. So what about granite? You've been climbing on granite with gear at all? You've been placing nuts or anything like that? Or getting anybody showing you how to do that?
We met one guy in 11 Mile Canyon. He was showing us some anchors, and he kind of gave us like a clinic out of the blue, sort of. But not that much. Not really yet.
So that's something that you need to get in. You're probably at that stage right now.
Yeah, I'd really like to start doing that. Because,
It was a goal this year, but got some other hardware placed this year.
Hardware placements in his wrist.
So might have to be next year's
What's
goal.
your prognosis with that thing? When are you getting your cast off?
Like 3 weeks, I think. 4 weeks. So.
And then what are you allowed to do with it after that? Do you know?
Oh, I think I'll be ready.
Ready?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I want to get out of this thing as quick as possible.
Yeah, I bet. So, we'll have to, maybe we'll head down to the Black Canyon then in the fall and do something down there.
Oh, yeah. I've been there and looked at it, but I haven't climbed there before.
Yeah, it'd be good to get you out. I mean, it's like I said, you're at a point where I think it'd be good to start getting you dialed into some sort of gear and getting you
for sure,
a little bit more independent. And if not independent, at least, like I was just saying, in a situation where you can assess what's going on around you, because that's kind of a big, in my opinion, like a big step for beginner climbers, is you're just at the mercy of whoever you're climbing with for a while.
Yeah.
You learn how to tie your knot. So then, I mean, if you think about like the first time you went on a rope, someone probably tied your knot for you.
Yeah.
And you just had to be like, I guess this is the way it's supposed to be, but then you learn to recognize the way it was supposed to be. Then you learn to tie it.
Yeah.
And you're still, I mean, if you're sport climbing, it's one thing. You're clipped to some bolts. It's pretty easy to tell whether that's done properly. But when you start top roping on anchors and things like that, it's a better feeling, and you'll feel more confident if you can at least have a look at that and go, okay, that thing makes sense to me.
Yeah.
As opposed to just, hopefully they did what they were supposed to do, because I have no idea.
Yeah.
So that's a really good goal for you to get into. And have you done any multi-pitch climbing?
Yeah.
What have you done?
I did a route with Tracy and BJ in the Red Rocks. It was a lot of balls, I think. It was fun. Like 5 pitches, I think.
Nice.
And I had a lot of fun on that.
And did you just send them off from the campground and hope they came back alive?
Yeah. Me and him are going to try some multi-pitch, some easier stuff once he gets better.
So are you sort of coming along with your own skills then with this whole thing?
Yeah, slow.
But you're attempting to, you're wanting to kind of get in that same level so you guys can keep climbing together.
It's more overcoming a fear of heights for me.
Oh yeah,
I get too high off the ground and I get very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So that's the demon to slay, I guess.
Yeah, well, I think the same, I was a guide for many, many years, and the same thing applies, is that, as you replace kind of that sort of uncertainty about how everything works with a certainty, that also tends to for a lot of people, tends to replace that fear of like, I'm not super confident in what I'm doing. Translates into fear. When I get super confident in what I'm doing in terms of safety, ropes, all the gear, all that sort of stuff, it translates into comfort. And, if you're one of those people that's never going to be okay with it, that's one thing. But most people work through it to where, I understand that I can lean back on this. I understand that this is solid because I'm really confident about it. I think that's just, you guys are sort of on a similar path from different directions age-wise. So.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you this too, Henry, because this is sort of striking. When I met you in Indian Creek, and you seemed like this really outgoing kid, introduced yourself to me, I believe, and you're with your mom, and you're down there like with a bunch of adults.
Yeah.
Okay. And I can only imagine, again, even now, that though there's a lot more kids in it than there used to be, you go to a place like Indian Creek, you go to a place like City of Rocks, Maple Canyon, even probably to a certain extent, and you're going to be hanging out with adults.
Yeah.
And there's probably not a lot of kids your age that you're just going to run into when you're out there.
Yeah.
So what's that like? Can you sort of like give me an idea what it's like to be sort of in this sort of adult world? And I mean, because I know how climbers can act, and it's not always that mature.
Yeah. I don't know, really. You just kind of adapt to it, I guess.
What do you mean by that?
I don't know. You kind of have to learn how they do it, so then you just take notes.
Take notes? So when everybody's like partying and drinking and then going crazy down in Indian Creek, you're taking notes?
I don't know.
No?
Maybe in my head, I don't know.
Yeah, because I don't know. It's an interesting, to me, it's an interesting thing because it's this adult world, but it's also very childish.
Yeah.
You know, and it can be very irresponsible at times. And so, you know, like even when I'm down in Indian Creek, I mean, those campfire discussions can get a little bit out of control, and you know, the booze can go around, and I mean, that's kind of part of the culture down there in Indian Creek. So, you know, all of a sudden I think about like, oh, look, there's this, at that point, 13-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of like, wow, I feel sort of a little bit self-conscious all of a sudden, you know? So, but you've never had a problem with that? Like,
no, not really.
People are cool and they can act however they want?
Yeah.
That's not a problem for you?
Not really.
What about you, Frank? In terms of having your kid running around in these sort of environments at times?
I think it's fine. 99% of the people we meet are absolutely great people. They're out on their little adventure. Mm-hmm. And whether it's just a little 2-hour climb in the local crag, or they're on we've met people from France and all over the world, and probably as a percentage of the population, climbers are like a better group than just the average.
Right. You know, I've always felt the same way, and I always feel like I'm a little bit elitist when I talk about it, but for whatever reason, it does draw sort of a uppercut in a lot of ways, even though, like I said, at times their behavior, you know, for moments can seem a little bit out of control, but they're good people underneath that, so to speak. But so I guess it's not a problem for you guys, so I should stop worrying about it.
Well, I don't think someone who were drinking and drugging a lot would remain being a climber for very long.
Right. People
drink and drug and climb. I don't think you can do a lot of the first two and do much of the last one.
Right.
So I think Henry understands that. I hope he does.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that really answers my question, because I don't have kids, and like I said, I just kind of was curious about how you sort of felt about that environment. Because, I mean, it's usually really well self-contained, and it's those moments in those certain climbing areas where all that sort of stuff is happening, but I don't know what your impression of it was, so that's kind of what I was curious about. Anyway, that's a good answer to the question. So, do you have any sort of like dream climbs, or is there something that like you read about in the magazines, or that you see like out in your faraway future? Your dad said you met some people from France, and do you plan on going worldwide with this whole thing?
Oh, I'd really like to go to Yosemite for sure.
Climb El Cap?
Bucket list.
Yeah? What else is on your bucket list?
Go to Indian Creek a lot. Maybe go to somewhere out of the country. India or something like that.
Mm-hmm. For a big worldwide road trip?
Yeah. But I don't know where yet. But I definitely want to do that.
What about you, Frank? You looking forward to this climbing adventure you guys are on?
Yeah. I think we'll make it to Yosemite one of these days. I don't know. I'm always looking at the map and going, where can we go next?
Right on. Awesome. Well, thanks, guys, and thanks for having me into your house to do this show. I really appreciate you guys sitting down with me.
Yeah, for sure.
And I wish you all the luck, and hopefully we'll get out this fall when your arm heals up.
Well, thank you, for sure. Thanks a lot.
All right, thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Kind of a down-to-earth conversation with some normal climbers. If you guys are stoked, please head over to the iTunes page Normalcast at iTunes and write a review. We're actually kicking some serious butt over there. 62 consecutive 5-star reviews. So let's keep that going. We're also in the What's Hot category. If you spend about 20 minutes clicking through from podcasts to sports and leisure to outdoor, we're actually right there on the front page, and we're the only ones who have the word explicit attached to the podcast on that whole page. Although this one, we didn't swear at all, in deference to Henry. It's only 15. I'm not going to swear in front of that guy. All right, tell your friends. Send me some comments. Chris@anormalcast.com. Go to the webpage. Please like us on Facebook. Do what you got to do. Let's keep this thing rolling. We'll see you next time for an interview with Kate Rutherford.
I ain't never seen him, but my common sense tells me the Andes is foothills and the Alps is for children to climb. These here is God's finest sculptures. There ain't no laws for the brave ones, and there ain't no asylums for the crazy ones, and there ain't no churches except for this right here, and there ain't no priest except in the bird. My God!